Hey everybody, welcome back to part 2. Today we're right back into Manga Studio, got some free time finally to be able to go back in here and just finish this up like we did in the first video here. And I think I remember talking in the first video about throwing some color on this. And what I ended up doing is, ideally what I would like to do is, when this book is printed, is to have it in black and white. Now in black and white, especially in manga, everything's got screen tones. So I will do a separate video on screen tones and how they work in Manga Studio 4, at least the stuff that I'm finding. But I thought I'd include it in this one as well. Like the covers and stuff would be color, you know, that's standard stuff. But inside I would like to learn more about how to do proper screen tones. So I'm going to do some research and stuff into looking at some of my favorite manga, what they like to do. And I'll tell you right now what I noticed that's happening right now, and you guys will see it. Usually the way I work is essentially just solid and heavy black and whites that presumably would be colored. Now this looks really good when there's color in there because rendering and all those extra lines that you throw in there are really cool, and they still mildly show up depending on your colorist. However, when you start adding screen tones to it, they get lost pretty quick. And screen tones, to me, are phenomenal. I mean, they can get some really awesome effects in there. They can save you a lot of time because you don't necessarily have to go in there and do all the kind of rendering and shading and stuff that I'm doing, because you can just do screen tones. However, you know, I like the style of this, so I'm going to have to figure out some medium. I know I can't be the only artist that has thought of this. Manga's been around for ages, and I just need to do some solid research. So actually, I'm going to reach out to you guys and girls out there. Maybe you guys can help me out, especially all you manga lovers out there. Do you guys, what's your favorite manga that you read that's heavy detail, perhaps has a lot of shadow and rendering? Because that's what I want to see. I want to see how those cats, how they handle screen tones. Maybe they don't even use screen tones, you know? Maybe I just need to start looking at some other stuff. Maybe it's just a different way to start rendering. But anyway, so as you can see, we just got into how we normally do it. Just start throwing in some heavy blacks. Not really worrying about the rendering just yet. Right now what I'm doing is I'm worrying about the shadow on his tail. So on Manga Studio, you can click this button right at the top left of the layers there, and it'll turn your line art to blue, or whatever color you set it at. Default is blue. And what I like to do with that is that way I can still see behind it. As you can see, I can still see what's going on, you know, where my original lines were. And that's because I lowered the opacity as well. So I can start worrying about rendering shadows and stuff without being obstructed by, like, oh, is something being overlapped and all that. And then now all I'm doing is just grabbing the eraser tool and cleaning it up. Yeah, okay, and then I start adding a white halo on a new layer over everything. That way, these things can tend to pop over the black background there. And we're pretty much almost done with the shadowing. So as you can see right there, oh, and I should note as well, if you look, everything starts to look real muddy, like not clean outside. If you see that blue box that's kind of around, you can see right now at the bottom, that's your print guide. And what that is that's your live area. So whatever's inside that live area is going to get printed. But what I like to do is I like to cheat, especially for this. This isn't going to be, well, this will probably get printed, something like this, in like the back matter of like the comic or something like that, just for like added sketches and stuff. But if this was a comic page, I would definitely draw in outside of that and into the bleed area. The bleed area is what gets cut off by the printer, okay? The trimmed bleed area. We can get into that in the specifics if you guys are interested in that, for those of you that don't really know exactly what the hell I'm talking about. But what I do is I just take this picture in Photoshop and I use that live area as my border, and then I just kind of crop the image into that. So you're able to get messy outside of that. So as you can see here, this is another video I guess that I can make for you guys to show you. This is focus lines. Really cool and quick tool that you can use in Manga Studio to make like fast as hell speed lines, and you can always go in and adjust it afterwards. I chose white. I planned on using like a gradient behind the Squirrel God character here, you know, just to help make them pop. I think it gets a little muddy though. And right now what I'm doing is I'm trying to find an old image that I had done in Manga Studio, and you'll see it pop up as I'm struggling to find it, of a character from one of my favorite role-playing games for the Nintendo DS, actually. It's called Radiant Historia. And right here I'm trying to find the file. I guess I had made a bunch of files with the same name, and here he is here. If you guys are on DeviantArt, you guys can check this out. I posted it all over there. But I liked the way the rendering here turned out, and the dots and stuff like that. So I was trying to make little style sheets on the left there. But the more you zoom out the dots, they start to get closer, right? So it starts to look like an actual solid color. And maybe because this is a 600 DPI image and the original image I did it at was like 300 where I got these from, I need to play around a little bit more. So I'm not exactly happy with the result of this. It's a fun experiment, you know. It's better that I get through all the hiccups now than once production starts, and you know you're pretty much screwed. You know, like you're fighting your own deadlines and stuff like that. That's not good. So I like to, especially when it's a new project, if I have the time, especially on a personal project, you basically have infinite amount of time. Just trying to do some of the heavy lifting up front, so that once you get down the road and get into full production, you can still do little mistakes and stuff. You know, you're still experimenting and all that, but the heavy work, like which kind of dots in this case look good, does he look too muddy with this kind of palette with you know, screen tones? He is a black character, so and I don't mean that like a dark character, like he's physically he's a black man. So his face, his giant chin, and his lips especially are really animated. I'm trying to make them more squirrely. You know, that's outside of his eyes. He needs something to show emotion, and that's going to be his mouth. It's a little small little mouth there. However, when I use these screen dots or halftones, whatever you want to call them, you know, because he's black, it's very dark, and you start to lose some of the personality in there. And you'll see me struggle with it just a little bit once I start to clean it up. Like right here, if he was a white guy, bang, it's easy to see. You know, it pops. It's easy because he's a gray. You know, he's a gray squirrel. So it, you know. But especially with color, it's very easy because you don't have to worry about this stuff. You know what I mean? You can work with highlights. So this is why I got to play around a little bit more with screen tone, just so I can figure out how far I can push things, pull things. So there you go. There it was nice and black there, and cleaning it up. But you can see right away, like there's a lot of stuff lost in that, and it's kind of bugging me. So what I end up doing is just basically getting the eraser tool and trying to get some highlights going on there. But you know, ultimately, I don't think this really worked out that well. So I'm just throwing lines, just trying to get something. And here I'm just using the eraser tool to go around and add highlights to help break things up, give it some shape, I guess. But my screen tone work definitely needs some work. And here I add a gradient. Still not sure exactly how this kind of thing works with tones, but you know, still fun to look at. Didn't know if I was going to use white or black. Ultimately, we end up going right here, I think, with this gradient, and then I just erase, you know, everything that's overlapping onto the character. But yeah, the screen tones in Manga Studio are really awesome. Literally, you can just grab your lasso tool or your marquee tool, whatever you like. Lasso gives you some freedom, right? And you can make a shape, and every time you make a new screen tone with like a different setting, like let's say heavier lines or closer lines or thicker lines, it'll make a brand new layer on the right with the settings there. So if you ever do like a drawing or something where you really love the way that screen tones turned out, always you can go back and the settings are saved right there, which is awesome. To me, I think that's phenomenal. And it instantly gives it some texture, and it's different than just working in gray tones. Anyway, that's it for this video. You guys can check the full image at the bottom. There's a link into the DeviantArt picture. Take care, and we'll talk soon.